UAW has hit a real positive mark for the labor movement. We've said for a while that
I love you, Sean Fain.
If anybody should be running for president right now, it's Sean Fain. Yep.
I love him. I would call me.
And today, of course, SAG-AFTRA reached an agreement on their union contract in Los Angeles. And that, of course, is obviously a great thing for our friends Robert John Burke, Francis Fisher, Jolie Fisher, and then, of course, you have
Sean
David,
Astin.
Sean Astin, David Jolliffe, of
course.
We've
had our SAG-AFTRA peeps on. But no, and they had, from my understanding, I heard Fran giving a few interviews, like they had, it sounds like they got what they really needed to get for
protection
their people.
Against AI, which is really what you need.
I mean, that was sort of the high note we were going to maybe end on. It's like there's actually some progress in labor.
Well, I mean, I can kind of pick up on that because like this definitely merges the conversations, right? Because I have been among the many critics of the organized labor movement here in the United States for so cowardly sitting in silence while this genocide unfolds before our eyes for days and weeks on end. And if not, if these unions were not actively supporting it and expressing unwavering support for Israel, like the AFT and Randy Weingarten did. Right? But I am happy to say that more workers and unions are taking that brave step, as they so often do, right? To stand up for what's right, to stand up for our rights, to stand up for freedom, our need to live freely. That is ultimately what the labor movement and every social justice movement is about, is people want to be free. And so we are fighting against these systems that keep us from being that, or the historical legacies that impede our ability to live freely, or that only allow some people freedom while at the expense of the freedom of others, so on and so forth, right? How free can you be as a person in this country when you are shackled by the burdens of rising rent costs and untenable healthcare costs and so on and so forth, all while your boss is making billions of dollars? Like this is where the labor movement fights, right? And it is connected to everything that we've been talking about here, because like, again, anywhere there is someone fighting to live freely and fighting to enjoy their life and live with dignity, like the labor movement is there. That is the heart of it, right? So we should all take up that mantle wherever it may be. And brave folks like Cooper Caraway and many others who spoke out about the genocidal assault on Gaza in the wake of the October 7th Hamas-led attacks. Cooper got fired from SEIU for doing that, and he's one of the most brilliant labor organizers I've ever had the honor of speaking with. I call Cooper a very close friend and comrade, and he, like many others, have lost their jobs for speaking out about this. But the more people are doing it, the more that they are getting ennobled and emboldened to speak out. And so the first AFL-CIO affiliated union just fully called for a ceasefire today, I believe it was, which was the American Postal Workers Union. So huge shout out to them. That's a big union, but also a number of locals have been calling for a ceasefire. If folks want, they could go check out In These Times. I believe Jeff Shirky and Sarah Lazar, they've been doing great work covering who on labor is actually speaking out about this. But on top of that, workers are also taking direct action. So I'm going to talk about that. Then I'm going to talk about the contract wins, because it's a progression. But the actions, like that's what I've been trying to do for the past 2 weeks at The Real News, because I've been trying to get people from Palestine on it, because Mark has been talking to folks in Israel. We've been just trying to get people voices on the ground. And it took me 3 weeks to finally get 9 minutes with a Palestinian living in the occupied West Bank, and it was the most intense interview I've ever done, and it's on my show, Working People. So if folks want to check it out, listen to my interview with Issa Amro. I beg you. But at the same time, while I was trying to get through to people in Gaza, in the West Bank, and elsewhere, I was also looking for wherever I could find working people who were standing up for what's right, wherever they may be. And so I found union members in the United Kingdom who formed a human blockade around an Israeli weapons supplier, a plant in Kent. They formed a human blockade around it. They disrupted the production of that war machine. And people here in the United States started doing that too. We've seen the news about
Seattle
reports, and I want to clarify that it's not necessarily like a labor action that's happening at the ports in Oakland and Tacoma. It's people, it's different organizations showing up to the ports. What I have heard, just from talking to longshore workers over there is that, again, insofar as they can speak off the record about it, like they believe in this, they support it, but as a union, it's a different matter. But what they were saying is we can't get to the ship because the protesters are blocking it. And that's why now at Tacoma, I think it was the military that unloaded that fucking ship, right? But people are still taking that action. And just like rank and file healthcare workers, I interviewed one for Breaking Points this past week who led a vigil in solidarity with their slain healthcare colleagues in Gaza. Like, these are healthcare workers across New York City who are looking at their colleagues manning their stations in hospitals that don't have fuel, where babies are dying in incubators, and people on dialysis machines are just dying because Israel's cut off all their fuel and bombs are getting dropped on those hospitals. So a working person who is trying to work in a hospital here can't help but see that and want to do something about it. And people are doing something about it. And if you're watching this, you can do something about it too. There are people all around you. You just have to look. And I hope that we at The Real News are trying to uplift that struggle and show you how you can get involved in your own way. Everyone has something to offer. No one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And now, in terms of what that means for the internal domestic labor movement here in the United States, I think this is a really exciting and interesting time because, Sean Fain and the UAW, they really built on the momentum of Sean O'Brien and the Teamsters. And I want to be clear that also both of those contract campaigns were successful, or the success that they got. There's always more. There's always parts of the contract that could have been better. There's always a fight that we still got to have. This fight is not over by a long shot.
Right.
The contracts that UPS workers got and the tentative agreements that the auto workers are currently reviewing, they're a shit ton better than the last ones were. So that's still something, right? And so the point is just those contracts would not have, the concessions would not have been given by the companies if the rank and file was not building a credible strike threat and not showing their unity when the time came to strike, and getting the public on their side, walking the line. That's why the companies caved, because they couldn't turn the public against the auto workers like they could in past strikes, right? And so again, we all have a role to play here in keeping that momentum going and making sure that no group of workers is left behind, because while the UAW auto workers are going over their tentative agreements right now, which is great, and SAG-AFTRA have got their tentative agreement, which is fantastic. We still got Pittsburgh Post-Gazette workers who have been on strike for over a year now. They've been on strike for 13 months and they've been forgotten. We can't forget about them, but we need to bring that momentum over to them. The Starbucks workers still don't have a goddamn contract in any store. We need to fix that. We need to change that. We need to hold Starbucks accountable. And the more that we build on that momentum, the more that people feel like we can actually win and that we can move the seemingly immovable, that we can actually do something to change our circumstances, and then that we are not just the playthings, the listless playthings of our bosses and politicians who get to make all the decisions for us, but we can actually do something to change the world around us, improving our wages, our working conditions, having a better workplace where people want to stay, colleagues can grow their relationships and build a career. That's something that you can do. And once you take care of yourself there, then you set yourself up to take more action in your community. Go and be at your school board meetings, right? Go get more involved in a political campaign. It all starts somewhere, but it cascades and builds the more power that we build collectively and the more that we win. And so if we are feeling helpless and hopeless as we watch the genocide in Gaza unfold, and we feel like we have nothing that we can possibly do to do that. All I'm saying is that that is how most people feel in terms of changing their circumstances in their daily lives. They feel helpless. They feel hopeless. They feel like they don't even have a right to say anything to their bosses, let alone the corporations that employ them. But working people have been showing since time immemorial that we can change things, that we can, in fact, when we work together, we can move the immovable, we can change the seemingly unchangeable, we can actually build a better world out of the ashes of the old. That is the enduring message of the labor movement. It's the message that we all need to hear right now. Do not give up. Don't ever give up, because nothing is impossible until it is. Or nothing, what was the great quote from Nelson Mandela? Yeah, I don't know. Just something seems impossible until it isn't.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.